How has it been making new friends for you since moving to Chicago?
Making friends here was, I won't like sugarcoat it.
I had to really realize that me being sad doesn't mean I made the wrong choice.
Yeah, I don't regret moving here. Yeah, I'm fucking sad, but like, now what am I gonna do about it?
Big, scary choices, there's gonna be sadness involved. Like, it's fucking Inside Out.
Yeah, truly.
We need all the emotion.
Once that mindset switched for me, that's when everything really started to fall into place more.
And there are things I miss about New York experience. Like, I miss getting to see you more often.
Yeah, me too, babe. It doesn't really matter, like, if we go months without speaking, like, I'm still here for you and I'm still gonna care for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if 2 years go by, like, I'm gonna pick you up and it's gonna be like 2 days have gone by.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Hazelnuts. Hayes here. This week's episode is all about long-distance friendship, both how to make new friends when you move to a new city, but also how to maintain your friendships that are now separated by miles and miles and miles. We don't have advice columns in today's show, but we do have a special guest in the form of one of my North Star besties, Matt. He was actually a work bestie turned North Star bestie, proof that work besties can be real friends. I wanted to invite Matt on the show because so many of you write to me about your evolving friendships, and it's something that Matt and I discuss a lot, both as we've both recently moved from New York, where we met, to new cities, him in Chicago, me in Los Angeles, and have had to make community here. But also, our friendship is evolving between the two of us, because that's what happens in life. And I wanted to show you that I feel some of the same things that you do in your relationships. I wanted to show you that it's normal. And with the right friend, it's actually nothing to worry about. My hope is that by hearing the two of us talk through some things that we're feeling and feel hard for us, both in our friendship and in other friendships, my hope is that it'll give you a model to have similar conversations in your relationships. And also, Matt's just like one of my favorite people in the world. And I truly feel that if all of us could hang out, we would all really get along. So for the next 55 minutes, let's all laugh and feel and hang together. Subscribe to my channel for future advice columns, and don't forget to let me know what you think about this episode in the comments. And with that, here's Matt and I talking about friendship. I think that we're rolling. I think that we're on.
It's my first podcast.
It's your first podcast?
Yeah, first one ever.
This feels like really full circle and very special.
I know it does.
I mean, you have such a good speaking voice.
Thank you.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Hazelnut. This is my best friend,
Hi.
Matt.
It's good to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here.
In my home. Welcome to my home.
We just spent like an hour discussing Halloween costumes because we're going to a Halloween party tonight that I wasn't aware of. I have a trench coat with me and I really just want to be like a cat in a trench coat.
No.
But that's not a costume that we feel is appropriate.
No.
You don't want to be the assholes who go to the party without
a full, like, thought out costume.
We're going to do Regina.
And Regina's mom.
Regina's mom. Though this sweatsuit that I just tried on, Matt's like, we have the perfect velour sweatsuit. And like, they're like two men. And I just put it on. And this is a tiny, tiny sweatsuit. I mean, I'm going to be, it's pinching. It's pinching.
No, you look good in it though. You look really good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's just like a little, I don't really wear that many tight clothes anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's like a self-conscious thing. It's just like, I've never been comfortable in tight clothes.
Yeah.
And now I'm not in environments where I am getting dressed that often. I don't know. So just like putting tight clothes on sometimes feels alarming, even if it's not actually alarming. Mm-hmm. Just like the act of it, my body doesn't feel used to it. So I sort of go into like, I have like a trauma response to tight clothing.
Like, don't breathe.
Do you get dressed here a lot?
A corset.
When you work here? Context, Matt is, I mean, what do you do?
I work at NBC News. I'm a video producer. I work permanent remote from Chicago. I have my little home office here.
Do you get dressed?
When I need to. Get dressed?
Yeah.
I put on like the same couple of shirts throughout the week if I have like a camera meeting, but usually, no, I'm in like comfy clothes.
Yeah.
I'll get dressed if I go out at night and stuff.
Because you always had like really great outfits at work.
I mean, like when I do things like at night or like on the weekends and stuff, I still like put in effort to what I'm wearing. I don't miss it like during the day by any means.
Yeah.
I do miss like commuting and stuff though. I miss the office.
I miss parts of it too. It's hard to decipher like what I miss about, because there's so much I don't miss, but there's like a feeling I missed. And I think it's like I miss the getting dressed feeling and like there's like a connection to yourself maybe. And
well, it's funny because I remember like when I think about the office, because I started this job in March of 2020. So I've never had like a normal office experience with NBC, but like Thrive, which is like where you and I met, was very normal. And it's like, and so when I think about like office time, I think about like that mostly, and like you sitting across from me and like us making silly faces at each other.
I miss making silly faces at each other. We had so much fun. I want to talk about I think a fun thing to do with friends, because we've been friends now since 2017, 2018.
I think it's 2018 is when I started.
So Matt and I met at work. I had just quit my job as a teacher and I started working as a content fellow, which is like a glorified intern. Like I was basically an intern.
But the best one we ever had.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I wasn't there yet, but still.
I appreciate that. I did have a glow up.
To see you rise as you did at Thrive was really special.
Thank you. So I was there. I was new, like I knew nothing about media or the business of content. And maybe I had been there for like a little over 6 months, and then Matt started. But I think a fun game to play with friends is like, do you remember meeting each other for the first time? And like what our thought was. What our thought was about the other person, like if we were going to be friends. So I'm going to go first.
Okay.
I remember you walking into the office, and maybe at the time when this was like, we had 40 employees, small company.
Yeah, it was small. We were still in that old office on that side street in Soho.
On Crosby Street, on Crosby and Prince.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous location.
It was.
A great location actually for making friends at work, because there's so many cute lunch spots and like drink spots, and there's stuff to do. But I remember you coming in, and I kind of sat close. I was sitting close to the front entrance, and I remember our like senior producer who brought you in had told me, I don't know if she had told me actually that she thought that you and I would be friends yet, but she didn't really give me much personal information about you. And I remember you coming in, and I couldn't really get a read on you. And it's interesting because there's like a man and a woman. Like I'm not opposed to making friends with straight men, but there's definitely like a different layer of thoughtfulness maybe. And I remember like you came in and you just had this like super confident, but like really friendly energy in a way that like wasn't typical for a straight man. Do you know what I mean? Like you had this like ease and comfort. Am I phrasing this correctly? Like the way you were, when we met and the way that you interacted was like, made me feel so comfortable.
Good.
Kind of like, oh, there's like nothing to worry about with this person in every way. And not just when I say like a straight man, not just that like when you make friends with a straight man, there's like a romantic thing that you have to worry about. But there's just something, there was just like this like comforting, smart thing about you.
Are a little different.
And I was very drawn to you. But I don't really remember like when we actually became friends. Do you remember?
I think it was more of like a gradual thing. I do remember like when I got hired at Thrive, my boss there is the same boss I had at my prior job before then. She brought me over to Thrive. And I do remember her very specifically saying that there's this one woman who works at this company. Her name's Alex. I know you guys are going to like really hit it off. You're going to love her. And it's funny because I mean, she knows me, my boss knows me like very well. And so like, I was not surprised when you and I started, connecting more and like how easy it was. I think one of the times we first started interacting was when I was doing one of the different video series. Like I think it was like Thrive Diary or something. It was one of like the first video series I was doing. And that's when you and I first really connected, and you had expressed interest in like wanting to do more video. And I had seen some of the stuff you had done at Thrive prior. And yeah, I mean, I just like, the more we started speaking and the more like I got to know you and I saw like your energy and your passion, that's when I was like, yeah, like I absolutely like want to work with this person. And I think through that, it was like, that's how our friendship kind of evolved, was like through these like beginning stages of doing videos together and producing together.
And you really taught me. Like it's interesting to hear you say that you noticed that I was passionate about wanting to learn video. And it's interesting to hear it reflected back to me that like I was passionate about something. And I think to my credit, like one of the things I'm really good at is when I want to learn something new, I become like really passionate about learning that thing and using what's available to me to get better at it. And that is a good way to make friends. Like I saw that you were really talented and kind. And I'm like, here's this person who I can latch onto for lack of a better word. Not like to use you, but like
but our like
relationship to invest in.
Our energies like clicked in that way, and I think our friendship evolved in the same way that like our working relationship evolved. It's like it happened simultaneously because the projects we were doing. I mean, the first video you did, you were getting acupuncture on camera for the first time, and that's a very like invasive like.
Yeah, many
people would not be open to doing that. Like it's not only just with someone watching, but like with a camera and someone watching.
I was pretty comfortable in front of the camera.
You were
from
so
the beginning.
comfortable, like from the very jump, and it's like you had needles sticking out of your body, and it's like you
Hairy
were totally
legs.
the
God,
chip,
do you
the
remember
chip,
when we
the chipped nail
toenail?
polish on your toenails.
For context, Matt and I used to work at this company called Thrive Global. You left editorial news to come and be the video producer. One of the goals at the time was for the company to like develop a YouTube presence. And one of the ideas was this series called Thrive Tried It. Where someone, the future host, would go and try different well-being trends backed by science.
It wasn't even the future host. Like we built the series around you.
Did we build it around me?
The series was pitched with you as the host. Like it was not like we did not pitch the series with not knowing who the host was going to be.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like you were the
I was
plan.
the host?
Like you were the plan.
That was really cool. I mean, I learned so much. That's like really where I feel like the story began of me even doing Hello Haze. Like without that experience and like you teaching me, I would have never known that I was good on camera, that I enjoyed being on camera.
Which I think is like, I don't know, and having done video for a long time, it's finding people who are comfortable not only just being in front of a camera, but with themselves to be able to do that is like a rare thing to find. And like, I think that was proven quite clear from the very first one we did on acupuncture. The fact that you just did it so naturally and, you know, were willing to share how you were feeling throughout the process is something that, you know, a lot of people just like would never be comfortable doing. Like
I think
on
it's a
camera or in
testament, though.
general.
I think it's also a testament to you as a producer. Like you are so skilled at making your subjects feel comfortable, and like you can see it now in your portfolio and like the breadth of work you've done. I mean, you've had some really incredible, emotional, heartfelt interviews. Like I'm gonna link. I'll put Dear Noah in the description for people to go watch it. But like that's a testament. Like you get the stories you do, and the people show up on camera the way they do as themselves because of you.
Thank you.
So take credit for that. And thank you for telling me that I'm great.
I'm always going to pep you up, Alex.
How has it been making new friends for you since moving to Chicago? I guess I'll start there.
Making friends here was, it was difficult at first. I won't like sugarcoat it. I think when we moved here, we already had like some groundwork laid with like certain friends and stuff who are some of our dear friends now, some of our closest friends. And I think that transition over the summer definitely helped, like our first summer here. But then the summer was crazy. We just had like a lot going on, plans, you know, travel and stuff. But then once the season changed and once it became winter time, I started to feel, I don't know, that's when I started to kind of settle in more to the reality that like I'm working permanent remote. I'm not leaving my apartment very often. You know, the season changes, plans and stuff slow down. And I started to become like really lonely, and I started to feel like a bit depressed around the holidays last year. And that was tough. Like it was tough because I realized that, you know, moving somewhere with your partner is different than moving somewhere when you're single, because when you're single, I think there are just many more options to like meeting friends. When I was single in New York City, I was, you know, going on different dating apps and stuff, meeting people that way. You know, I was going out to the bars and stuff a lot more. And like, that's how you make friends that way. It's just like, I felt more, there's a little more independence when you're single to like make friends. Whereas like when you're in a couple, it's like, or in a relationship, you know, it's you're kind of navigating the space together. And so like when Trey and I had conversations about this and like, it just kind of about how I was feeling. And, you know, he was kind of in a similar space too, where we were just like missing our friends in New York. And like, you know, that, I don't know, like that ease that we had there, I realized that like I needed to take initiative on my own. And like, you know, Trey also to take initiative to like start putting ourselves out there more, like as adults looking to make friends. Cause like making friends in your 30s is hard. Like it's not, there's limited ways I think in which you can meet people. And so we just had to be more intentional, you know, about how we were going about meeting people and making friends. And so, you know, we met two of our good friends through like a spin class. Like
tell us the spin class story.
Yeah. So it was like you know, Trey works in the hospital. So like he works a lot of weekends and stuff. So like one weekend I was like, I'm going to take a spin class. Like I I did a lot of spin when I was in New York, and I found this studio near our apartment, and I saw like one of the instructors who like looked fun, and I liked his playlist on like Spotify, so I was like, I'm gonna take his class, and so I did. And then like after the fact, I like found him on Instagram, and I was like, and I like noticed that he also had a boyfriend, and I like DM'd him, and I said, hey, like great class today, like I I just moved here with my boyfriend like earlier this year, and like we used to do spin a lot, and I was just like it was fun, like like sliding into the DMs, and then like he had responded and was like, oh, like so glad you came, like come take another one sometime, like welcome to Chicago, and then
so it wasn't quite yet like let's be best friends.
No, and it was like, and then his boyfriend ended up then following me too on Instagram, and I followed him back, and we didn't actually like exchange any messages.
Why do you think his boyfriend followed you?
Because I came to find out like he was also in my class, but also like with this particular friend, which I've like now obviously come to know him very well. Like he's just a very welcoming person in general. Like he's just the type of friend where it's like he always wants to make sure you're included and stuff. And like I don't know, like there was something that I at first like when he followed me, I was kind of like, okay, well, should I like DM him too and this stuff? And I was like, I don't know, like I don't want to be like weird. Like I was feeling kind of like awkward. I had never really done this
Was
before.
this all, just to get a flow of events, because I want to get specific, because I feel like this actually is a great way to make friends. Like you put yourself out there and did something that maybe made you nervous. So you took the spin class, you liked the instructor, you DM'd the instructor, he responded. Did he follow you at that point, or was it after you hung out or went to the class another time?
No, so he and I actually hadn't followed each other. His boyfriend then was the one that followed me, and then I followed him back.
Do you think he did that more like to like scope you out?
Maybe. I mean, 'cause that's what it is. I mean, it's like, I think it's very much so like that is, I don't know, when it's very strange, because it's like, it feels almost like dating, but it's just like without like the app. It's like you're still kind of sussing people out through social media and stuff. And I looked at their pages and I was like, they seem cool and fun. I talked to Trey about it and he was like, yeah, like I agree. And then, but like so Charlie's the instructor, Junior's his boyfriend. Junior and I followed each other, didn't exchange any messages.
Junior's who I'm meeting tonight.
Yeah, you're meeting Junior and Charlie tonight.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so you're meeting both of them tonight. And like a couple weeks went by, like, and it was just kind of it. Like I was like, okay, like maybe I'll see them at Studio 3 again at some point, the spin studio. And I was like, but if, well, I guess it is what it is. It was around the holidays and stuff. And then like I'd seen Junior post something on his Instagram from the Betty Boop musical here, which was like on previews here that I had seen a couple months prior with some friends who were in town. And I was like, oh, like, what'd you think? Like I DM'd him afterwards and I was like, oh, like, what'd you think of the show? Blah, blah. I saw it a couple months ago. And then we just like started chatting. And then he was like, oh, by the way, like I was, I was in Charlie's class the day that you were there. Like if you ever want to do a spin class together, like let me know. We can like do spin and like get brunch or something. And so we did a Britney Spears themed class and like both won wigs.
You wore a wig?
No, we won wigs.
Oh, you won wigs.
Because Junior's a very big Britney Spears fan.
Is that one of the wigs that I tried on for Halloween tonight?
No, he has both those wigs, so I need to get those back. Or I need to get mine back anyways. But yeah, we did this Britney Spears class and then we got brunch afterwards and it was really great. Like it was...
So you bonded over shared experiences. But I feel like a takeaway there is, and maybe I'm reading into this too much or I don't really because I'm not a gay man, but like I feel like him following you, some people could have interpreted that as like something weird.
I mean, like
but you interpreted it, you didn't interpret it sounds, or you did, but you chose to like think of it as a positive, and it actually was. It was two people beginning a friendship. And I guess like today, following each other on Instagram and like scoping each other out, like is kind of, it is actually it can be a useful tool to make new friends.
It can be, because I think you get a good sense of like each other's vibe and like what they're about. And like I had seen that, Charlie and Junior were together because of Instagram. And, when Junior did follow me and stuff, like a friend of mine was like, oh, do you think they're open? They're trying to sleep with you? And I was like, I mean, I don't know, but like if like me and Trey are not open. And so I'm like, if that ends up being the case, then like I'll, it's one of those things where if we end up hanging out more, the conversation's like open and close like very quickly.
Yeah.
And like either, the friendship progresses from there or not. And it's like that is just one of those things that you just have to figure out. And
when it
especially,
happens,
yes. And I think that is true for, hetero or gay couples. Like being open is not just a gay thing. But
and like hetero people of opposite, I'm still trying to like get a grasp on all of the right language to use. Like two hetero people who are interested in the opposite sex, like that could come up there. Like before I learned that you were gay, I would have still wanted to be your friend, even if you were a straight man, because of all of the reasons that I was saying before. And like, should that have become a problem? Like, I guess we would have addressed it when it came.
Exactly.
But you don't need to approach your friendships through the lens of like,
okay, is this
what if?
Yeah,
is this
exactly.
inappropriate? Is this
exactly? Because I think especially too, like you never know. Like, as an adult, it's like we're all kind of in different places in our lives, and like I was not going to shut down the opportunity to meet someone that I thought might be cool because of the fact that like their intentions might be different than mine. Because like if that ends up if that were to come to light at a certain point, it's like
you're capable of dealing with it.
Exactly, you have that conversation, and if your friendship can't move forward after that, so be it. But that's obviously like not what happened. And like when we got brunch and stuff, we both talked about like our relationships and like our like past histories and stuff and like our interests, and it was really cool. And I remember being on the train home and messaging with Trey and saying like brunch went really well. Like I could see us like being really good friends and stuff. And that's just like how it evolved from there. And I don't know. And it was just one of those things where, it was like a interesting experience to go through because as an adult, like I said, it's, there are very limited ways you can meet people. And I have found, my brother was the one that told me, he was like, he met some of his friends through doing CrossFit. And so I was like, okay, maybe like a fitness class is a good way to meet people. Spin's obviously a little more like, you're not really social in class.
You have to be brave to talk to someone after.
Exactly. And so it's like, it was, I kind of used social media as like the crutch to be able to do that. And like it was, and I mean, it's been, I don't know, like since the new year, like since that experience, we had some other friends, two of our other good friends here had moved from, North Carolina, and we were connected with them through a friend in New York. So like it was through like that mutual connection that we ended up making like new friends too.
Was there a moment when, like, what took you from the mentality of like, I'm here, I don't know if I like it, I don't have any friends, I'm lonely. What took you from the mindset of like, this is really hard and I'm really struggling to this is hard, but I'm going to like try to do something different before I give up?
I don't necessarily think there was something that happened. I remember having a good conversation with my brother, around the time where I was like feeling really down and stuff. And it was through that conversation where I realized that I just had to start taking some initiative. Like I couldn't just like sit here and expect, friends just fall out of the sky. It's like, that's just not how it works. And I think too, what made me realize that was the fact that like, when I looked at the majority of my close friends from New York City, you being one of them, who I'm still really tight with, these are all people I met through work. And work is I think the easiest way to meet people, like friend wise as an adult. And it's like, and I've been really fortunate to like meet some really special people throughout the course of my career who I'm still very close with. But not having like that available for me here, I don't have an office to go to.
Yeah, you got to come up with some new ways.
Exactly. I had to think about like, okay, what are the ways in which, adults meet people?
Yeah.
And it's like, and there are like, you can join, an activity or like a club of some sort. You can do fitness stuff together. Chicago has like, there's a lot of things that
you got to go out.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like adult activities here, which is actually like the thing too. Like I was thinking about this when I was answering your first question about like, I think the difference here now that like being here, which is different than like being in New York, is that friendships here, it's like oftentimes revolve more around like activities together. So it's like, whether it's
meeting up for dinner.
Yeah, well, no. Like I think more like, doing pickleball or, going to the beach or, going bike riding together, going running together. It's like things feel a little more intentional with activities. Which is like, I think it's like it's like, there's a difference that that was never really a thing that I had in New York.
It's also a stage
like,
of life. Like
exactly.
In your mid-20s.
Exactly.
You're doing a little bit less of like, want to meet me for a bike ride?
Yeah, no, it's like let's go get drinks and go to the club. Which there's nothing bad with that. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's, I don't know, like I feel like, I feel like our friendships here now center more around like doing things that just don't involve like eating or drinking.
Which is really nice to have other things to do. But the question I was asking you, it was a leading question. You were recounting to me last night a story about how Trey asked you, do you want to move back to New York? Mm-hmm. And that was a moment for you to be like, well, do I want to move back to New York? then sometimes I think that when we're really struggling with something, there's always the option of like getting rid of, removing a barrier around the thing we're struggling with by quitting, by giving up. Like it comes up for me. I was getting lunch with a friend this past week and I was telling her about some of the challenging parts of building Hello Haze. And kind of, I was just relaying like some of the lowest moments of the last year. And she asked me, do you think you can still do it? Or like, maybe she said, do you want to still do it? And that's been, a couple people have asked me that over the last year, mostly like very inner circle people. And the answer is yes. But when I have forced myself to ask that question, the scary question of like, do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to go back to the way things were before? Sometimes that question can be the thing that like makes you realize, I do really want this. Like I want to be in Chicago. We moved here for a reason. What am I going to do now to try to make this work?
To make it work, right. Yeah, and that's like how it was. Like it was when Trey asked me that, like it was I appreciated him for asking that question.
Yeah, he's a good partner.
Yeah, because it was like, it kind of forced me to reckon with how I was feeling. And like, there was no way we were going to move back to New York City. Like we had made the decision. And even in the times of me feeling kind of upset or lonely here, that was never really like a thought that, like seriously crossed my mind. But I think too, like, I think him asking me that question allowed me the space to, kind of, it allowed me like the space to actually have that conversation with myself. Cause I think for a long time I was kind of like just trying to suppress like the feelings that I like of missing New York, or I was trying to suppress like certain things I was feeling to make it seem as though like, yeah, we made the right decision, which we did make the right decision. Like the decision to move here, we had, put in motion like over a year before we moved. It was not a spur of the moment thing. There was a lot of planning involved, and we're really happy here now. But it was like, I think him asking me that question just kind of allowed me that space to like feel sad and like then start moving forward.
Yeah.
Because I think there was a period of time there where I thought that me feeling sad equaled me regretting the move. And so getting over that was really helpful to kind of like work through like those emotions, because like me feeling sad about like, missing my friends and some of the life that we had there, which was like we were so happy there and stuff and had a great life in New York City. Me being sad about that does not mean I regret moving to Chicago. And so
important.
Like accepting that was really helpful.
Makes me, I feel my eyes welling up. Like when you do something like that takes such courage, such as moving somewhere new and like starting your life somewhere new at a time when other people aren't. Like when you graduate, moving to Chicago from New York at 30, 31 to start your life. Like sure, lots of people are leaving the city that they went to post-college, but you're kind of doing it alone. And it's like a big, brave, scary thing. And there's not like a gigantic community of people doing the same thing as you, like when you graduate from high school, graduate college, et cetera. And there's so many complicated emotions that come around making a big life decision. And it's hearing you say like, I had to really realize that me being sad doesn't mean I made the wrong choice. That really hits home. Because big, scary choices, there's going to be sadness involved. Like it's fucking Inside Out.
Yeah, truly.
We need all the emotions.
That's why it's my favorite movie.
We need all the emotions.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's all part of that process of kind of coping with, any sort of like big life change. It's not a one size fits all answer. And I think like kind of working through my sadness allowed me that space and that confidence to then start like putting myself out there more to make friends, because I was like, okay, now that I've like gotten over this hurdle of like, yeah, I don't regret moving here. Yeah, I'm fucking sad, but like, that's okay. Like, now what am I going to do about it? It's like, it was like those steps.
That's the journey.
Exactly. And it was like, and truly once that mindset switched for me, it was like, that's when everything really started to fall into place more living here.
Hearing you say that, I feel like you just described like the arc of emotion that I try to help people get to in Hello Haze letters. It's like, here's this, it's like, Hello Haze, here's this painful thing that I'm dealing with. And through my response, I try to be like, allow me to validate you and affirm you, because what you are talking about is really hard. And you writing this letter is like the, do I want to move back to New York moment? Like, here's this opportunity. Now, how can we take initiative to try to make it better.
Yeah, exactly.
And hearing you just kind of do that is, I think, what I try to do with myself when I'm in a hole of sorts, and what I try to do with people writing in.
And it's also like it's not always like, it's not always a one size fits all.
Right.
And in fact, quite the opposite. And it's also like everyone's timeline is different. I think Trey settled here a little quicker than me because he had an office he was going to. He had a normal kind of work schedule, and he had that routine. He was meeting people through work. And so I think his process of settling was a little quicker.
Yeah.
But for me, with having that like be stripped away, like my timeline was a little longer.
Yeah.
And like that was okay. And it was, I like reflecting on it now, like a year later, I'm happy that I had like that space, and obviously like my partner here to help me like navigate that and stuff. And like, the friends that we did have here and like the new friends that we were making, it was like nice to be able to confide in people in this way. Cause like once I allowed myself again, like that acceptance of, feeling okay to feel sad, that's when I became more open and discussing
to like say
it.
when people are like, how's it going? You can say it's been kind of hard.
Exactly. And that's kind of like how it was. And yeah, and it was, I remember going to like New York in January of this year, and I was still kind of in like a weird headspace. And then I don't know, when Trey and I went back to New York, like about a month ago in September, it was like for the first time being there since we moved over a year and a half ago, I was like, I like visiting, but I'm excited to go home.
Yeah, that's a really nice feeling. I miss New York, but I don't think I want to move back there yet or ever. Brian really doesn't like the city, and like I think I'd want to be in the city. Before Brian, my like vision of my life was living in New York forever. But I've sort of come to realize that like my missing New York and what I feel about New York represents a New York I never had, but like always fantasized about. And there are things I miss about New York experience. Like I miss getting to see you more often.
Yeah, me too, babe.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
But like, you're not there anymore. Like the things I miss like aren't actually even there anymore. I missed maybe, I guess, just like that moment of life.
Yeah.
When
we talked about this last night, though, like you and Brian leaving New York was like another indicator that like maybe mine and Trey's time was going to be coming to an end at some point. Like you guys moved over a year before us.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that was kind of happening with some of our other close people, is like people are just kind of moving in different directions with their lives. And like, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's like, because I think like I think since, moving and stuff, when you no longer see your friends like face to face as often as you do when you live in the city, the same place, it's like your friendship kind of takes on a different form. But in a way, I think it makes the friendship like even stronger, if that makes sense, because it's like it becomes like much more intentional.
Let's talk about our long distance friendship.
Yeah. Because I have like many long distance friendships. It's like, I just think that's the nature of, growing up and stuff, especially if you like move to different cities and stuff, you're going to have friends that stay one place or go elsewhere. And it's how do you keep those friendships that really matter to you?
Well, it freaked me out a little when I realized I hadn't seen you in 2 years. Like when I was on the train and you were going to come pick me up at the train, I was like looking at pictures to put on my Instagram story, and I'm like, it's got to have just been a year.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait, that picture's from 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And it makes me a little emotional because I think, I was going to say I can be this way, but I think a lot of people can be this way, but I'll speak about myself. Like sometimes I can get so in such a bubble. And like time is moving by so fast. And it just makes you realize like you really do have to be intentional about like making the visit, like doing the thing. Because all of a sudden it's been 2 years. And like, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, seeing that like freaked me out a little bit.
Why was that? Why do you think it like freaked you out?
I think I worry. I think I feel like insecure sometimes I feel pretty confident about how I spend my time and like investing in the relationships that are important to me. But I think sometimes there's like a worry in the back of my head that I get like too laser focused on things and that I don't have enough abundance of like relationship in my life. But I don't think that's actually true. But I think like it's sort of like me, one of the big questions of my life is like grappling with my, quote, ambition. And
Yeah.
like some people ask me, what's your favorite thing about being in LA? And like sometimes my answer, I think I might have even said this to you, is like, I like that I don't see a lot of people. And part of that is because I think it gives me an excuse to just like be in my hole.
Yeah.
And it's moving to California, like the relationships that I've kept up are stronger in lots of ways. And then other relationships have kind of, they're still there, but I've changed my expectations of them. And
Yeah.
I don't really have any relationships that have changed that I want them to be different. But like, what are the changes when friendships change because of moving? What's the reason for it? Is it because you're like neglecting each other, or is it just because things change and it's okay? But maybe I take on responsibility sometimes of like things being my fault. So I think maybe a reaction like seeing like, I haven't seen you in 2 years. It's like, is that my fault? You know?
But I think like the question about like, is it your fault or not? I think for a friendship like ours, like doesn't really matter because like we still have like a very strong foundation, and like regardless of how long it goes when between us seeing each other, it's like the moment I picked you up in the car, like it was truly like I had just seen you.
Yeah.
It's like those 2 years were 2 days ago, you know?
Right.
And it's like I think when you have, you had just mentioned something about like the friendships that have gotten stronger and the ones that have kind of fizzled away. I think there are different, I mean, like you've spoken about this like on Hello Haze and stuff. Like there are just different kinds of friendships, right?
Totally.
It's like I think there are friendships that require more like face-to-face, like social interaction, and like in lieu of that, like if that's no longer there, then that friendship kind of goes away because like the foundation is just like those, social interactions that you have where it's like you're getting drinks, you're getting dinner, whatever, and it doesn't really go, it doesn't go beyond that, which is okay. Like I think there are a lot of friendships that are like that are meant like you're friends in the place that you live, and like when you no longer live there, you're not gonna be friends anymore. And I think like that's normal and that's okay.
Yeah.
But then there are also, the more, I don't know, like the stronger, deeper friendships where it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter how long it's been since we've seen each other. It doesn't even matter really how long it's been since the last time we spoke.
Right.
Like, you're going to pick up where you left off. And it's hard. Like sometimes I think that's easier for, certain friends, and sometimes it's harder for certain friends, but I don't know. Like I have lived in many different places now. And like I've managed to maintain friendships for like over 10, 15 years, having not been in the same city, like in equally as long of a time. And it's, it really takes like, I think it takes like a trust in the friendship that your foundation is strong. And if that person matters to you, it doesn't really matter. Like if we go months without speaking, like I'm still here for you and I'm still going to care for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if 2 years go by, like I'm going to pick you up and it's going to be like 2 days have gone by.
Literally. I think that way too. Yeah. I feel very lucky.
Me too.
I don't know why I'm so sad.
It's happy tears, but I don't know, like we talked about earlier before too, it's like sadness and joy come hand in hand.
Sadness and joy. We were talking about the inside out characters. Someone left a fucking comment on one of my videos recently that they wrote, "You kind of remind me of Anxiety and Inside Out too."
But I think that's a more thing about Maya Hawk.
Yeah, so basically they're saying I'm Maya Hawk.
You're Maya Hawk.
But it prompted a conversation about all of the feelings and sadness and joy. And Trey told Trey to try to get Matt riled up so that Matt's like Joy. And Joy's potentially the most annoying of the characters. Toxic positivity.
Yes, but
we need her.
Yeah, we need her. We need all of them.
Yeah, you're right though, that like long distance, like it's a special type of friendship where you trust the foundation so much. And sometimes I guess you don't know until you leave. Though I could have predicted that we would be this, when we were even in person together, I could have predicted that like, I know our foundation is good. This is going to be fine.
Because I think like you have that, I think with certain people, there's just like that.
There's just trust.
Yeah, exactly. There's like that trust and that instinct that you just kind of know.
Yeah.
And I think, like we said, it's like if there, like if certain friendships and stuff, like if you do move away and like certain friendships do start to become harder or more difficult, like I think you have to ask yourself the question why that is. And like, it's also like, okay, if that happens with certain friends, like you're not going to leave a city or move to a new place and expect all of your friends from that
stay
from
exactly
yeah
the
yeah
same.
and stay exactly the same, and like that's okay, and
Yeah.
it is can be a painful process at times, but I don't know, like the people that are in your life, for long-term reasons, those people are going to be there.
And they can weather the changes with you because the only thing that we can guarantee is that there's going to be more changes.
Exactly. Like I remember, I think it was like a year ago when you and I were catching up. Like it had been like a long time since we spoke, and you had
Was it my birthday?
apologized.
It was my birthday.
Yeah, and you had
Yeah.
apologized to me for like that it had been so long since we spoke, and you like,
I was very upset.
you got very upset and you were like quite emotional, and I was like, you have nothing to apologize for.
Yeah.
Like,
I was also like deep in crisis.
no, I know. Like there were a lot of things going on and stuff, but I was like, you have nothing to apologize for, because I'm like,
I want to actually talk about that. So that was like
Yeah.
my birthday was coming up, and I had been we hadn't spoken in a while, and I had really been in like a big hole. And ahead of my birthday, I was like feeling anxious about like, I know I'm going to talk to you on my birthday. It's going to hear me out through my crying. I cry through my thoughts all the time.
That's why you're good at what you do.
Yeah, true. I know I'm going to talk to you on my birthday, and like I'm anxious about it because there's like I want to talk, but I'm anxious about. I'm upset with myself. I feel like is it my fault? All of that, and I think like you picked up the phone, you called me, and I picked up the phone, and I probably immediately like started to cry. I think I said like I'm sorry that I haven't been present. Things have been really hard, but I want to be more present. And your reaction to me was just like, you have nothing to apologize for. And I feel very lucky to be like received in that way from you, and like so genuinely. 'Cause I think a lot of people would say it, but like I can feel it, I can feel it from you. And I wonder, and I get lots of letters from people who I think wouldn't receive me in that way because, or they're reflecting on a friend of theirs who maybe is distant, and they're like not able to see whatever it is you see in me, but maybe it's like an underlying maybe there's something else underlying. Like if you're not able to receive your friend in that way, why? And like you're able to receive me that way because I love you, you trust in our bond.
Because I trust our foundation, and I think with this moment in particular, I think what's also important to remember, especially being long distance, is that like, sometimes it can be challenging to be there for friends. Like this being a good case where it's like, because like I wasn't seeing you every day, and because like we weren't speaking that often, like there were things that were going on that you were dealing with that like I didn't really understand until we had that phone call.
Right.
And I think your openness in sharing that it is helpful. I think it's helpful for that context, especially it's like, if we haven't gone for a while and stuff, like I never once was like, oh my God, like, we're not friends anymore. Like it never once crossed my mind. But obviously, like, if you do go a long time without speaking to someone, it's kind of like, oh, like what's going on with their life, blah, blah, blah. So the fact that like you share that so openly with me I think was really helpful, because then it's like, okay, like I wanted to make sure, like, then after the fact, I wanted to make sure like I was checking in, like, obviously, like you can't, this is the other important thing with like long distance friendship, is like you have to make sure that like you are being intentional about like how you're reaching out and like when and stuff. Because it's like, it's hard to do it like every single day. Like it's like, for not seeing each other every single day, it's hard to like make sure that like, I want to be present. I want to be there. I want to be checking in, but I also don't want to be like,
yeah, you can't.
Overly. I don't want to be like overbearing, but also it's like I just can't. It's like there are things, with like, with all of our lives and stuff. It's like we're everyone's busy and stuff. We all have things going on, and so you just can't do that.
Right.
But it's like, so you have to be a little more intentional about like making sure like you're checking in and when and how.
And that you're doing it in a way that works for you. Because the worst
Exactly.
thing is to like you're like, oh, I need to check in with Alex every day.
Exactly.
And then it becomes a source of stress.
Exactly. It starts to become a source of stress, starts to feel more like a burden.
Right.
And like, and that's something that like is also important to like recognize about long distance friendships, is that like, you
have to keep reality in mind.
Exactly. And it's keeping that, it's keeping that in mind when, if your friend is going through something, and making sure like you're still present and you want to be there and you want to be like showing up and stuff. But it's harder when there's miles and thousands of miles like separating you two where you can't be there physically.
Yeah.
And so it's really thinking about like, okay, like now that I know she's going through this, like what can I do on my end to make sure like I am, showing up for her in the way that I can,
Right.
being so far apart, making sure like she knows I'm here for her, making sure she knows like she's supported by me, without carrying too much of like, to your point, like that stress of being like, oh my God, I got to do this every
And
single
as
day.
a sensitive person, like
Yeah.
you could easily overextend yourself where then you're
Exactly.
not actually able to be a good friend.
Exactly.
And I see that happen in friendship all the time too. Like you do too much. And not only could you potentially push someone away, but you're developing your own resentment.
And also, do I think it's important too, like if I don't know, if you're the one in the shoes that is like going through the difficult moment and it's like you can't expect, because I've been in this position too with like, friends who I'm not physically with. It's like you can't expect them to know what's going on without telling them.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if
People aren't mind readers.
exactly, it's if you are going through something and you are feeling a particular way, like you can't fault your friend for
Person.
not picking up on it. If like
You haven't said anything.
if you haven't said anything, because especially if you don't see them, it's like I think
Especially if you don't see them.
Exactly.
You're so right. Because like there are things you can pick up on in person.
that you're not that if
You can't pick up on when you're not seeing each other or speaking.
exactly,
So you need to be more communicative.
because you can't fault someone for not knowing something that like they have no foresight into.
So true.
Because I have felt that way at times, with different friends that I don't live in the same city with, where it's kind of like if I'm kind of grappling with something or was dealing with something more difficult and like, I wasn't hearing from them and I was like, well, why am I not? And I was like, well, wait, I haven't told, like they truly know nothing that's going on right now. Exactly. So it's like, I can't like be mad at them. Like
That's
I'm
a transition in and of itself though, of like moving away because you're so used to your close friends being able to be intuitive
Yeah,
and pick
exactly.
up on things because you're seeing each other more often. Even if it's every month or every couple of weeks, like you expect them to be able to pick up on it. And even though you like, you know that you aren't seeing them, part of your brain like probably still expects them to be able to pick up on it.
Exactly.
You have to like really tell yourself that like we don't see each other anymore. They don't have their sight and sound and smell of me. They can't pick up on it unless I'm being communicative.
Yep.
Which is hard for a lot of people to be open and vulnerable like that. Like it's hard to
Yep.
say. It's hard for me even as a vulnerable person to say, I'm having a hard time right now. Those words are really hard because they're so big and you don't know how people are going to interpret them. And you want them to, like, you want the other person to get the gravity of how not okay you are.
Yeah.
But you also don't want them to worry.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing.
It's also like more difficult too when there's not that physical interaction.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like when you're trying to come from a place of empathy, it's harder when you're just doing it over the phone, over
Yeah.
FaceTime, where you can't like hug someone or hold their hand and say it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And so it's even taking on like different forms of communication on like how do you
What's the phone version of
Yeah,
like
exactly.
the hand rub?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really just like hearing them and making sure like they know that they're supported by you.
Right. I love you very much.
I love you too. I think I have like one last thing on this. I don't know. I find that with long distance friendships, like I feel like a pressure where it's like if time, if there's time that has gone by and like I haven't had a full catch up with someone or like I haven't checked in with someone in a while, that like I start to feel like a lot of stress around that. And like that is still something I'm trying to like work through, is making sure that like, I can't allow that to stress me out because like, again, I trust that like these friendships are, the foundation with these people is really strong. And, if we haven't really spoken in a couple of months, like that's okay. And it's like, I can't allow that to stress me out when like, I know I have a lot going on in my life and I know they have a lot going on in their life. And, if we haven't spoken or caught up in a while, like that doesn't mean anything like one way or the other about our friendship. It's just like, that's just how life is at the moment. And I still think that's something that I'm trying to work on, is like not allowing that to be a source of stress for me.
It's very reassuring though, because I think that, oh my God, I haven't talked to my friend in 4 months. Is that bad? I think that thought, like hearing you say that you stress about that, I stress about that. I think a lot of people stress about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do we, and it's normal and it's okay. And certain friendships it's fine. But like how do we better deal with that? Is it just like when you have that feeling, just like sending someone a text being like, just so you know, I love you?
Yeah.
And then if you were worried, if we haven't spoken in 4 months and you're worried and you have a stressful moment of like, I haven't talked to Alex and you say, hey,
thinking of you, love you.
And I'm like, thinking of you back, love you so much. Like, would that help the stress?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's just like a small little thing. Like, like, even just like that in and of itself, like, hey, just think about you, miss you. Like that is kind of then like lays the groundwork for us, like having a conversation at some point, which is, a time that works for both of us. I mean, you and I play phone tag all the time.
We do.
And it's like, it's not a problem. And it's like, and in fact, like I really love getting your voicemails and like, I'm trying to get better about leaving them for you too.
Did I tell you recently that I realized I didn't know that I'm like a person who leaves voicemails until recently my sister, I got a voicemail from Bella and I'm like, this is weird. Bella has never left me a voicemail. And in it, she's like, I just wanted you to know how much your voicemails always make me smile. And I thought that I would leave you one today. And hearing hers, I'm like, oh, wow, this feels new for me. But I didn't realize that like other people think I'm a voicemail person.
Yeah. Well, I think just recently was the first time I left you one. Cause usually you would leave me one and then I would text you back and be like,
you left me like a 2-minute voicemail.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm trying to get better about that, especially with, if you leave me one, because I feel like it's a little more personal than just sending a text.
Okay, well, for the record, I forget. I don't even remember leaving people voicemails. Like I leave them and I have no recollection of them.
Which is kind of like, voicemail, like I think it's kind of like the same sort of, I don't know. It's kind of like the same sort of idea as like people who send like voice memos, which are like, VMs are so common now. And it's like, that's also something that like I'm trying to get better at because I have a lot of friends who do it. And it does feel, I don't know, that there is something that's more personal about hearing the person's voice versus just like reading a text from them.
I have a new-ish friend and we got lunch and I took a risk and voice noted her later. And I said, I'm like, this is a risk. Like we never talked about voice notes. And I sent it to her. And I will say that getting her voice note back to me felt like, oh, this person maybe does want to be my friend. And I like was smiling, listening to it. Like it felt like an extra layer of like friendship intimacy.
Yeah. It's also when you get to that point in your friendship where it's like you're calling them instead of, if you like just need to talk about something quick, it's like instead of just like going back and forth on,
hey, how are you? I can just be like,
yeah,
hey, like,
but also instead of going like the back and forth on text, it's really easy to get on a 45-second phone call or a minute-long phone call and just like hash out like, okay, where are we meeting? What time?
Yep.
Instead of like doing the back and forth on text, I think that's also like a level of intimacy that you reach with friends that is like really nice.
Like in the coffee shop this morning, I'm waiting in line while you're outside with the dog, and you call me from outside instead of texting me.
Yeah. I'm like, what kind of donuts do they have?
Really good donuts. But I think everybody worries about that. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's like if the foundation and stuff is there, which I think I think we, as people like have a good idea of those friendships that are like have the stronger foundations. Like when the foundation's there, it doesn't matter.
It's there, but it's normal to feel the anxiety. You just have to remind yourself, like,
everybody's busy.
And if something was wrong, like we'll tell each other.
Promise.
Pinky.
Yeah, I was like, pinky promise.
Pinky promise. You never have to worry.
Yep.
I love you.
I love you too. This was fun.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe
I'm glad we got to do this out of my home.
I know it was actually really fun getting to set up with Matt, like having a real producer. Like we're using a fucking tripod right now, and it looks so much better. I mean,
a Zoom recorder.
Like just wait, the production quality of Hello Haze is about to really escalate. I mean, we need to order like all my shit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to help you do
that. I bought the Zoom recorder because you told me to buy this when I started the podcast, and it's been sitting in a box for 6
months. And wait until you hear how much cleaner the audio is.
Is it actually going to be even cleaner?
I hope so.
What are you looking at?
Huh?
Is it something wrong?
Keep talking.
Hello.
Oh no, it's
hello?
still good.
Okay.
I couldn't.
I just watched
the
face,
reflection.
like,
the reflection. I couldn't quite see if the level was still there, but no, the level is good.
I just watched your face like go white.
No,
Can you imagine
it's
if we
recording.
Didn't get any of that.
It's recording. I hope.
All right. Well, on that note, we're gonna go get lunch, walk around.
Yes.
I love you. Thank you for being here.
I love you too.
Hazelnuts. I'll see you next week.
Bye.
If you're a super observant hazelnut, you'll notice that Matt called me Alex throughout this episode. And that's because I went by Alex just a handful of years ago. 4 years ago, I was still going by Alex, which is crazy to me now because though I never identified as an Alex, it was the name I went by. And it's like so not me, but it doesn't bother me that he calls me Alex because that's what he knows me as. Like hearing it out of his mouth, I don't think it's weird. I'm calling it out in case anybody thinks they can start calling me Alex. No, you may not. I am Hayes, or I'm Alexandra.